In section 2, we discussed linear, area, and volume. We also discussed how measurements take shapes of different dimensions. In section 3, we'll see how the units we use to measure have to take on shapes also. What's the difference in 2D and 3D? So let's do a little review. Area relates to a surface, something that can be covered. Volume relates to a space, something that can be filled, how much something will hold. Area equals length times width, 2 dimensions. Volume equals length times width times height, 3 dimensions. So basically, to make it more simple, volume equals area times height. You take a surface area and you add height or depth to it, it's volume. Linear, area, and volume. They require units with different dimensions. We know linear, area, and volume are 3 different dimensional units, but they also require units to measure them with different dimensions. We'll discuss that. Here we'll use inches as our unit of measure for an example. At the end of our last section, we mentioned that a one-dimensional measurement is what? What do you call it when you measure one-dimensional? We call it length, right? All right, you need a one-dimensional unit, a linear inch, to measure it. A two-dimensional measurement is what? Area. And you need a two-dimensional unit, a square inch. All right, take a three-dimensional measurement. What do you call that? Volume. And to take a three-dimensional measurement, you need a three-dimensional unit, a cubic inch. All right, so let's discuss these different units. Dimensional units of measure. Here we have a shape that is 5 inches by 4 inches. So we'll be using inches as our unit. Area equals what? Length times width. You measure area with squares. Here we'll use a square inch. How many square inches are in this rectangle? Well, we'll measure it with that 1 square inch. All right, this object is 5 inches long. So we put 5 square inches in a row. Well, this object is also 4 inches tall. So we'll do this 4 times. How many of those square inch squares are in this box? The box is 4 times 5. If you counted them, there are 20 1-inch squares. So 5 times 4 equals 20. So the area equals 20 square inches. So when you calculate the measurement of an area, that's how you present the measurement in square inches, square feet, square yards. Area, again, equals length times width. This shape is measured in feet. 3 feet long, 2 feet wide, or 2 feet high. The label doesn't matter. The main thing is 2 dimensions. You got 2 measurements. It doesn't matter whether you say it's length times width, length times height, whatever. Area has 2 dimensions. All right, so we use 1 square foot. There's 1, 2, 3. It's 3 feet long. Then if we measure the other side, is 2 feet high, 2 feet wide. So we got to do that again. 2 rows. So how many squares are there? 6. 3 times 2 equals what? 6. All right, so there's 6 square feet is the proper way to say what the measurement of that surface is. 6 square feet. Here's a sheet of plywood. What's the area? 4 times 8. And that equals 32. So what would you call it? The size is 32 square feet. If you took a square foot box, 1 square foot box, and laid them on top of it, it'd take 32 of them to cover it up. Tabletop. It's 24 inches wide, 48 inches long. So what's the size of this tabletop? If you got your calculator, you can calculate ahead of me. I'll give you a second. 24 times 48 equals 1,152 square inches. That's the size of that tabletop. It's 1,152 inches. All right. Now, how many square feet would it be? Now, in our next lesson, that's what we're going to focus on. Converting units of measure. That's what you're doing here. I just want to let your feet get a little wet so you'll have a little understanding about it. When we get into the next lesson, you already have a little, be a little familiar with it. All right, so how many square feet would it be? Here, you got 24 inches. How many feet is that? You could probably do it in your head, but if you didn't know, you just know, well, the unit I'm wanting to convert it to is 12 inches in a foot. So I'm trying to get feet, so I just divide 24 divided by 12, and that would equal what? 2 feet. All right, here we got 48 inches. So we want to convert it to feet, so you just go 48 divided by 12, which is 4 feet. So in square feet, that tabletop is 8 square feet. It's 1,152 square inches, or 8 square feet. Here we have a floor plan of a living area. It's 12 feet and 24 feet long. So to get the area, what do? We just multiply 12 times 24. That gives us the surface area of the floor. So we just multiply 12 times 24. That gives us 288 square feet. But if carpet is sold by the square yard, we need to convert that to square yards. And we'll be learning, different ways to do that. One way is just simply take the 12 feet here and convert that to yards by 12 divided by how many yards is in how many feet are in a yard? 3. So you just take 12 divided by 3. And you get 4 yards. Same with the length of the room. We want to convert that to yards, so 24 divided by 3 will be 8 yards. So how many square yards? 32 square yards.
3, 2, 1.
Man, that almost made me wish I was a Gamecock fan. The University of South Carolina has decided to install artificial turf on the field. The turf is $75 per square yard. What will be the cost of the turf? Well, what do we have to do first? Initially, you don't worry about the cost. When you have problems that have multiple answers to them, well, the first thing we'll have to do is get the square footage or square yards of the field. So what do we need to do? Add up the length and then multiply that times the width. All right, so first, the length is 10 yards plus what? 100 yards plus 10 yards. What does that equal? 120 yards. All right, so then we'll take 120 yards and multiply it by the width, which is 53.333 yards. All right, if we multiply those, that'll give us 6,400 square yards. That is the size, the surface of that football field is 6,400 square yards. All right, so now what do? Now you multiply it by 75. And that gives us $480,000. 480,000. All right, here we got a little activity. You can pause the video and I'll give you a few minutes to go over each one and calculate try to find the answer to the questions. And when you're done, turn the video back on and we'll go over it. We'll discuss it. All right, let's review what your answers are. Number one, find the size of this paper. 8.5 times 11. 93.5 square inches. Let's check number two. What's the cost of this countertop at $16 per square foot? Well, first we got to calculate square footage, right? How many square feet is that countertop? 32 square feet. Multiply that times 16, $512. All right, the space here looks like an attic is 36 feet times 15 feet. And the carpet's $12 a yard. So how much will it cost? Well, first you got to calculate the size of the attic. And you have to convert it to yards. Forgot that. But you got to convert it to yards first. And that will be 12 yards times 5 yards, right? 36 feet will be 12 yards. 15 feet will be 5 yards. You just multiply each number by 3. All right, so we got a total of 60 square yards. Multiply that by $12 a yard, and the carpet will be $720. You want to help raise money for rubber tiles on a community basketball court. So first we got to find the size. Well, the size is 50 by 94. And the tiles that you're planning on buying are 1 square foot. And they're $4 each. So how much will it cost to buy these tiles? Well, let's calculate the size of the court first. And that's 4,700 square feet. Then you multiply it by what? $4, because each tile is 1 square foot. So you multiply 4,700 times $4, and you get $18,800. That's how much you got to come up with to buy those tiles. All right, number 5, backyard. It's 50 by 90 feet. You want to put the sod down in the backyard, and a pallet of sod is 450 square feet. And it's $350 per pallet. So how much is it going to cost to sod this backyard? First, 50 times 90, that's the size. Okay, we got 4,500 square feet. All right, well, the sod's sold by the pallet at $350 per pallet. So the first thing we got to do now is find out, well, how many pallets do we need? Well, you got 4,500 total, and you got 450 square feet per pallet. So divide that, 4,500 divided by 450. That's 10 pallets. All right, so each pallet's $350, so it'll be 10 pallets times $350. That's $3,500. That's how much it costs to sod. Dimensional units of measure, volume. All right, so we see you measure area with squares, right? 1 square inch, 1 square foot, whatever. But you measure area, which is a surface, with a square, which is a surface. You measure volume with cubes. 1 cubic inch, or 1 cubic foot, or 1 cubic yard. You always measure volume with cubes. All right, let's look at this object here. What is the size of this box? Volume equals length times width times height. It's going to be 3 dimensions. Always 3 measurements. It's 4 inches wide, 3 inches deep, and 4 inches high. So how many 1-inch cubes will fit in this box? That's how we measure it, by how many 1-inch cubes will fit inside that box. You see your 1-inch cube? There's one. How many we need? Well, it's 4 across. 2, 3, 4. So it's 4 1-inch cubes to go across that box. But if you see my laser, it's 3 inches deep right there. So we need to put 2 more rows 4 inches wide. 1, 2. All right, now we got the bottom covered. That's how many? 12 square inches right there. 12. But we're not finished because it's what? It's got height to it. 4 inches. So we got to do that. We got to make it 4 rows high. So that's 2. That's 3. That's 4. And each one of those rows had 12 on it. And multiply that times 4. So how big is that box? How many 1-inch cubes fit into that box? 4 times 3 times 4 is what? 48. Just do the math. So the volume of this cube is 48 cubic inches. You always say cubic inches or cubic feet or cubic yards when you're dealing with volume. But this example illustration just lets you see how you measure with those cubes. But you can do the math, just measure, and like here, multiply 4 times 3 times 4 equals 48. So doing the math tells you how many cubes is in that box. Do another one, just using the math. This cube here is 4 feet times 4 feet times 4 feet. So you just did the math with your calculator real quick. What do you come up with? 4 times 4 times 4. 64 cubic feet. That's the size of that box. Here's a cardboard box. Let's find out how many cubic inches will fit in this box. 6 times 10 times 8 high. 480 cubic inches. How many cubic feet will this container hold? Now I know I'm going kind of fast sometimes. If you feel like once you get the picture up, if you want to pause it so you can calculate it, go ahead and pause it. If you know, in case I'm going too fast, but I don't want to go too slow either. All right, so here, how many cubic feet will this container hold? Well, what do you see here? 9 times 6 times the height is 9. 9 times 6 times 9. 486 cubic feet. That's what that container will hold. Well, let's get our toes wet again. We want to do a little preliminary converting before we get into our next section. How many cubic yards will this container hold? Well, we know it's 9 feet times 6 feet times 9 feet. Well, we can convert that. We can look at 9 feet and convert that to how many yards? 9 divided by 3 is 3. All right, we're going to look at 6. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Then we got 9 feet high. Convert that. 3. So 3 times 2 times 3 is 18. So what does that container hold? 18 cubic yards. All this is going to be important. Now here's another way to convert feet to yards. All right, look at this cube. What's the size of it? 3 feet times 3 feet times 3 feet. Right? 3 feet is a yard, so that's 1 cubic yard. 3 feet across, that's 1 yard. 3 feet deep, that's another yard. 3 feet high, that's a yard. So that's 1 cubic yard. 1 cubic yard equals 27 cubic feet, because it's 3 times 3 times 3. How many cubic feet in 1 cubic yard? 27. So, to get how many cubic yards it is, if you had, 100 and something cubic feet, you just divide that by 27 and it'll tell you how many cubic yards it is. Remember that. 27. Oh, look at him. Troubles and drove up. Hey, I'm Shady. I mean, that's my name. You call me for a load of gravel. I got you a full load, 12 yard right here. But you get to thinking about it, and that doesn't look like a bed that'll hold 12 yards. And the guy's name is Shady Deal. So what do? You got to calculate the size of that dump bed. So you get your tape measure out. You measure how wide, how long, how deep. 6 foot by 12 foot by 3 foot. Well, that's 216 cubic feet. Well, he told you he got 12 yards. 12 cubic yards of gravel in that truck. You're going to convert the cubic feet to cubic yard. Well, you just measured it, and you got 216 cubic feet. No Shady finna dump it. So you got total cubic feet, it's 216. And what do you divide that by? I just told you on the last slide. What was it? How many feet make a cubic yard? 27. So you just take that 216 cubic feet, divide it by 27, and you got 8 cubic yards. What Shady Deal say? Hey, Mr. Shady, I measured your truck, and it won't carry 12 yards. It'll only carry 8. Oh, did I say 12 yards? I meant 8. Shady got busted. All right, so this is the end of section 3. Dimensional units of measure. We talked about how we use, linear, measure straight. If you measure an area, it's going to be measured in square units, square inches, square feet, square yards. Volume, you're going to measure in what? Cubes, cubic inches, cubic feet, cubic yards. All right, so keep that in mind. And our next section, we're going to start converting units of measure. Boy, we're going to be doing a lot of math. It's going to be so much fun.